Hello dear students, my name is Dr. Vishali Ghai and the name of this channel is Tricks by Chemistry Guru. So this video is for class 9 students, one short video for the bio chapter, the fundamental unit of life. So let us start with the chapter without wasting the time. First thing is, when I talk about this fundamental unit of life, very important thing is cell. We know that different type of organisms, they live in planet and they look different from each other. And we can classify them as bacteria, fungi, plants, animals. But they all are made up of a common thing, that is cell. So in some cases, a single cell performs all the functions. We call them as unicellular organisms. In other cases, we may have different cells. They combine together, they group together, and they perform different functions. So in this chapter, we'll discuss first of all about the history of the cell, the discovery of cell. Then we'll move to unicellular, multicellular organisms, its various types, prokaryotic, eukaryotic. So let's start with the chapter. What is cell? We say that cell is somewhat which is the structural and functional unit of living organisms. Now the thing is, this cell, how come into existence? So the term cell was introduced by an English scientist, Robert Hooke, and he has written this word cell in his book Micrographia. He was working basically in the oak tree, Spanish oak tree, and that cork is the basic substance which he was working, and he was examining a thin slice of cork under his self-made primitive microscope. He found that it consists of, or it resembles the structure of a honeycomb. Honeycomb, you find some hexagonal structure. So he found the same hexagonal structure as honeycomb, which consists of very small compartments. Initially, he was worked on dead cells of plants, and it looks like empty rooms. Later, Anton von Leeuwenhoek described free cells for first time in 1674. Basically, he designed some improved microscope for the first time and he worked on this free cell. Robert Brown, who discovered nucleus in 1831, the most important component of cell is nucleus. That was discovered by Robert Brown. He was working in an orchid root cell and he discovered nucleus over there. So this is about the basic discovery and the history of cell. I hope this is clear. Now let us move to the next point, that is cell theory. So what is cell theory? How this came into existence? When I talk about cell theory, we say that it was presented by these two scientists, Schleiden and Schwann. They gave this theory. And according to this theory, they said that all plants and animals are composed of cells, and cell is the basic unit of life. So they explained, they have given a theory to explain about the cell. They said that each and every plant and animal, they are composed of cells, and cell is the basic unit of life, which was modified later, and nowadays we are having modern cell theory which says that all living beings are composed of these cells, and cell basically is a mass of protoplasm which consists of cell membrane, nucleus, and cell wall in some cases. So basically this cell theory was given by these two scientists. They said that all living cells arise from the pre-existing cells. All living cells, that means they have come from some pre-existing cells. So this is about the cell theory. Now, what are the instruments we generally use for study cell? Because cells are microscopic in nature, so we cannot see these cells through our naked eye, right? So we need to study these cells using some special instruments, and we call these instruments as microscope. What this microscope does, microscope basically provide us some enlarged image of that microscopic object, and we can clearly study the structure of cell. So we have a microscope which is an instrument to study cell. which is basically a common optical instrument as it consists of a combination of lenses. There are different kinds of microscope. One is light microscope, which is of two types. One is simple microscope and other is combined microscope. Like if we talk about amoeba, which is unicellular organism, has irregular shape and it changes its shape continuously on the basis of its function. Like if it has to engulf any food or obtain food in the body, it changes its shape. If it has to digest that food, it changes its shape. Finally, if it has to excrete, again it changes its shape. So amoeba or such type of unicellular organisms do not have specific shape, but other unicellular organisms are having definite shape. Let us move to multicellular. The shape of cells depend upon the position in the body and the specific function which they perform. For example, we have blood cells which are round in shape, nerve cells which are a long elongated tube ganglion along with it, ovum spherical in shape. So different cells on the basis of their function may have different shape. They also vary in size. Like it varies from few microns to in centimeters. Most human cells, basically our body, consists of cell in the range whose diameter is around 8 micrometer, 8.2 micrometer. So they vary in their size also. Now we'll talk about the number. On the basis of number, we can say we have unicellular and multicellular. Many of the multicellular organisms have large body which composed of larger number of cells. So I can say that number relates with increase in size of organism. Larger the number of cells, bigger will be the size of that object. So suppose any human being which weighs around 60 kg. So it has more cells as compared to a human body which has less mass. So less mass means less cells. So this is about the unicellular and multicellular organisms. Now let us move further to the another topic, that is prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. This type of classification is based on the complexity of cell, how complex the cell is. And we classify cell into two categories, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. What are prokaryotic cells? They are the most primitive organisms like bacteria, like blue-green algae, cyanobacteria. What is so specific about them? They lack nuclear membrane. That means they do not have nuclear membrane around their genetic material. And we call them as prokaryote. Prokaryote means, pro means before, and karyon word comes from nucleus. Similarly, the genetic material, they are in direct contact with the cytoplasm and there is no such nuclear membrane that bounds nucleus and doesn't allow the cytoplasm. So nucleus is in direct contact with the cytoplasm. So prokaryote do not contain any cell organelle or membrane bound organelle. So this is about prokaryotes, and now let us talk about eukaryotes. So basically eukaryotes are the cells of those organisms which possess true nucleus, and that nucleus is also bound by the nuclear membrane. They contain plasma membrane, they contain cell organelles, they contain a nucleus, a true nucleus which has a nuclear membrane around it. So we call them as eukaryotes. They may be unicellular, they may be multicellular. So now if I ask you the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes are basically smaller in size and the primitive type. Eukaryotes are comparatively larger in size. Their nucleus is not surrounded by any nuclear membrane, but here a true nucleus is present which is surrounded by nuclear membrane. This prokaryote consists of single chromosome, whereas eukaryote consists of more than one chromosome. Right? So these are basic difference between the prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Now we are going to discuss about the detailed structure of eukaryotic cell. So you must have seen a clear image of this eukaryotic cell in your book also. And when we talk about different cells or most of the cells, they are eukaryotes. Now when we talk about eukaryotes, we say that this eukaryote consists of three important components. One is plasma membrane, second is nucleus, and third is cytoplasm. So when I talk about the plasma membrane, we say that every cell is enclosed from all sides by a covering, and we call that covering as plasma membrane. Sometimes we call it as cell membrane. So it is always living, and it is very, very thin structure which consists of lipid and protein. Now what is the role of this plasma membrane? It allows certain materials to enter or exit, only selected material, and thus it is selectively permeable membrane. What is selective permeable membrane? That means when membrane allow penetration of some substances like solvent, but not all substances. We call it as selectively permeable membrane. So plasma membrane is one of the example of the selective permeable membrane. So what is the important function? The function is it allow or permit the entry and exit of only selected material. Now second component is nucleus. When we talk about nucleus, we say that every eukaryotic cell consists of nucleus, and it is generally located centrally in animal cells. In plant cells, due to vacuole, it gets pushed to one side, and it is the most conspicuous and largest organelle of any cell. So when I talk about the nucleus, we said that it is in animal cell, it is centrally located, but in plant cells it has been shifted towards one side because of the presence of vacuole in plant cells. It contains genetic material also. So this nucleus contains genetic material also. Let us move to the third component, that is cytoplasm. It is a matrix that filled between the nucleus and the plasma membrane. The gel, the matrix that is filled between these two organelles, these two components, we call it as cytoplasm. And this cytoplasm consists of various cell organelles in it. And every cell organelle performs specific function, as we have discussed in division of labor. So all these components of cell, they are to be taken together to make it living. No part can survive if separated from the cell. That means if suppose cytoplasm comes out of the cell, it cannot survive. The same is with plasma membrane and the nucleus. So when they are together, then only the cell is living. So this is about the plasma membrane and the important components of cell.